The House passing a $715 billion transportation and water infrastructure bill, also known as the Invest in America Act. The vote passed 221 to 201, two Republicans voting in favor with the Democrats. Joining me now, Tennessee Congressman, House Financial Services Committee member David Kustoff. Congressman, your take on this bill.
Good morning. Well, it was purely partisan. It funded $1 out of every $2 for Green New Deal initiatives. And the fact of the matter is, normally bipartisan, infrastructure is bipartisan, and we want it to be bipartisan. And the Democrats, unfortunately, have continued what they started this year and not negotiated with the Republicans. And unfortunately, that's why you saw that lopsided vote yesterday with virtually every Republican voting against it.
President, I want to ask you about taxes, of course. President Biden's promised not to raise taxes on anyone making under $400,000, creating roadblocks for lawmakers looking to finance new spending packages. The Congressional Budget Office saying that the deficit for the current budget year, that's 2021, will be the second largest in history. And now West Virginia's Senator Joe Manchin speaking out about the $4 trillion price tag on another round of spending backed by Senator Bernie Sanders. Congressman, listen to Senator Manchin.
I don't think I could ever get there to that, not unless we just throw caution to the wind on the tax code and could care less. To me, it's totally out of the ballpark.
What is the alternative to raising taxes? And by the way, we should point out, in Joe Biden's budget, he allows President Trump's tax cuts to expire, which would raise taxes, and this is in 2025, would raise taxes on the majority of Americans. And that involves people making less than $400,000 a year.
Yeah, in 2017, when we passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, I don't think there's any doubt that that was the major reason that we had a red-hot economy prior to COVID. It's another reason that the economy did so well as it did during COVID. And to reverse what we did with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act on individuals and on businesses, on individuals, people had more money in their pockets, more money to invest, which is one reason the markets have performed so well over the last several years. And you look at it from the small business perspective, where prior to the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the tax rates were 35%. They were lowered to 21%. You think about in China, the corporate rate is 25%. Biden talks about raising our corporate rate to 28%, where we're anti-competitive with the rest of the world. And it truly doesn't make any sense. I want people to be able to make as much money as possible. And I think that the majority of the Americans share that view.
Congressman, we might be losing you. I'm going to jump to Mark Tepper, and we'll see if we can get your shot straight. Mark, okay, you want to get in here?
Yeah, Dagan. So you played a sound clip from Senator Manchin. My favorite sound clip from Senator Manchin yesterday. He said something along the lines of, the Senate knows when they get something from the House, it's going to be a hollow firecracker, which I thought was good given 4th of July weekend. And it's up to the Senate to take that, mold it, make it more bipartisan, make it workable for the American people. So, when you look at this potential bill, when you look at additional spending, the reconciliation process, my question is, what is this all going to amount to when we kind of put everything together? An extra $2 trillion in spending, an extra $1 trillion in tax hikes. What does the big picture look like?
Yeah. You look at what the CBO says. They estimate a $3 billion deficit already this year for spending. And I think with reconciliation, hopefully we can hold Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema at their word that they're not going to blow up the filibuster, and that with reconciliation, obviously they've already used it. The Democrats have used it one other time this year. If they look at using it for infrastructure, then this bipartisan deal that some of these senators have gone to the White House and tried to negotiate, it's going to completely blow up. I go back to what I said a moment ago. that infrastructure normally is bipartisan. You know, the thing is we have to agree on what the definition of infrastructure is. I think it's roads, asphalt, bridges, waterways, airports. But when Democrats start expounding that definition, you know, within the last few months, I've heard a definition, human infrastructure, which I've never heard before, to know what that means. But when they talk about universal child care and free community college and the like, and defining that as infrastructure, that's where we totally disagree with them.
Yeah, the Democrats' game plan is to make Republicans appear as if they hate children and families, that somehow you're not in favor of, you don't support working men and women unless you vote for vast new entitlements, including universal pre-K, college, family pay, community college, family paid leave, expanded child care, you name it. So again, it's a ploy. It's a ploy to shame, or at least try to shame, Republicans into voting for vast entitlements that the United States cannot afford. Congressman, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. David Kustoff, have a terrific weekend.
Thank you for having me.